Have you ever noticed how the teachings of Jesus have the power to transform lives, dissolve fears, and illuminate even the darkest moments? In today's video, we are going to explore some of the deepest teachings he left us, each one filled with wisdom capable of completely changing your perspective on life's challenges. And the last teaching is something that can bring such deep liberation that you never imagined it was possible. Get ready, because your journey to freedom begins now. Jesus said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." John 8:32. How many times have you felt imprisoned by your own thoughts? Those moments when fears and insecurities echo in your mind as if they were absolute truths, making you doubt who you really are. But the truth that Jesus offers is not just information. It is a transformative revelation. When you connect with the truth of who He is and what He says about you, something changes within you. It is as if the shadows of fear are dissipated by the light of truth. This truth is not just a concept. It is an experience that sets you free. Think of truth as a lighthouse in the midst of the fog. Fear often paralyzes us because it obscures our vision, making the future seem uncertain and frightening. But when we allow the light of truth to enter our lives, we realize that we do not need to carry the weight of lies and insecurities. Jesus reminds us that we are more than conquerors, beloved children of God. When you understand this, fear loses its power, and anxiety disappears like darkness before the dawn. Another powerful teaching from Jesus reminds us, do not worry about tomorrow. Matthew 6:34. How many times have we let fear of the future steal our peace today? Anxiety is like a silent thief, robbing us of precious moments that will never return. Jesus invites us to look at nature, at the birds and flowers that do not worry about tomorrow, because God takes care of every detail. He calls us to trust that the same God who sustains creation also takes care of us. Anxiety deceives us into believing that we have control over the future, but in reality, control is an illusion. When we surrender our fears to God, we find rest. He assures us that we do not need to know all the answers because He has already prepared the way. This gives us the freedom to live in the present fully, without the weight of what may or may not happen tomorrow. And what about when life's storms come? When everything seems to be falling apart, Jesus gives us an example of faith in Matthew 14:22-33, when He walks on water in the middle of a storm. Peter, in his boldness, decided to go toward Jesus, and for a moment, he did the impossible. He walked on water. But as soon as he took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the waves, fear overtook him, and he began to sink. How many times do we do the same? We start with confidence, but when faced with difficulties, we allow fear to take over. The lesson here is clear. Keeping our eyes on God is what sustains us, even when everything around us seems to collapse. When fear comes, because it will, the only thing we need to do is cry out. Peter shouted, "Lord, save me!" And Jesus immediately reached out to help him. He does the same for us today. He does not let us sink, even when our faith is small. The invitation of Jesus is simple yet powerful. Live in the truth, trust in divine care, and keep your eyes on Him. These teachings are not just beautiful words. They are anchors for our soul in times of uncertainty. When we embrace this truth, we find a peace that the world cannot offer, and a purpose that transforms even the most difficult moments into opportunities to grow and trust even more in God's love. Jesus is always ready to lift us up, even when we feel like we are sinking in life's turbulent waters. Think about the storms you are facing now. Perhaps it is the fear of losing someone, the fear of failing at something important, or the anguish of the unknown. These waves may seem uncontrollable, and the winds may be fierce. But remember, Jesus walks on water. He does not watch from a distance. He enters the storm with you and invites you to trust in Him. He calls you to walk on the waters, even when they seem impossible to cross. The invitation of Jesus is clear. Come. He does not require us to understand how everything will work out. He only asks us to trust and take the step. And even when fear seems greater than faith, as it did with Peter, Jesus is there, ready to extend His hand and lift us up. Life's storms can be frightening, but Jesus teaches us that we can find peace in the midst of chaos. Imagine the scene. In the middle of a furious storm, while the disciples struggled desperately in the boat, Jesus was sleeping peacefully. His complete trust in God was the source of his peace. When the terrified disciples woke him, he simply commanded, "Peace, be still." The wind ceased and calm reigned. This shows us that true peace does not depend on external circumstances, but on the trust that God is in control. Even when everything seems to be falling apart, Jesus is in the boat with you, ready to calm the storms inside you. He teaches us that peace is more than the absence of problems. It is His presence in our lives. Jesus also guides us as the Good Shepherd, the one who cares for us when we feel lost. In a world full of confusing voices, He assures us, "I am the Good Shepherd." Just as a shepherd guides his sheep, even when they cannot see the path ahead, Jesus leads us to green pastures and still waters. The fear of the unknown paralyzes us when we try to control everything, but by trusting the Good Shepherd, we find security. He goes before us, facing dangers, and He protects us. Even in the darkest valleys, His rod and staff comfort us, showing us that we are not alone. Our faith, no matter how small it seems, has the power to transform. Jesus teaches us that even with faith the size of a mustard seed, we can move mountains. It is not the size of faith that matters, but its authenticity and the fact that it is rooted in Him. This faith, even if small, carries the potential to grow, transforming us and helping us overcome the greatest challenges. The mountains of life may seem insurmountable, but with faith in Jesus, they become possible to cross. In moments when we face rejection, Jesus reminds us that He too was rejected. He warns us that the world may hate us, but that is because we belong to Him and not to this world. Rejection does not define our worth. Our acceptance comes from God, who has chosen us and loves us. Just as Jesus faced rejection and brought us redemption, He strengthens us so that we can move forward, knowing that our true identity is in Him. Humility is another powerful teaching of Jesus. He shows us that true strength lies in recognizing our limitations and trusting in God. By placing ourselves in His hands, we find rest and strength. Pride isolates us, but humility draws us closer to God, freeing us from fear and allowing us to inherit the peace and security that only He can offer. Jesus invites us not to fear, but to believe. He is with us every step of the way, ready to lift us up, guide us, and bring us peace in the midst of life's storms. Open your heart, trust, and walk with Him, because He is always by your side. If this message touched your heart, explore more reflections like this. May your journey be filled with faith and light. Do not fear, only believe. I would love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below sharing your insights and how you believe we can strengthen this spiritual connection in our daily lives. Together, we can create a more conscious and harmonious community. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content.